Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, it's 10:34. Let's start this webinar. Welcome and good morning, everyone. And for Janvier and anyone joining us, it might be good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for joining Goalmakers Atlanta's webinar. This is our first Goalmakers Atlanta webinar, empowering girls as global citizens. And this webinar is hosted by the United Nations Association of Atlanta and in partnership with the Mayor's Office of International Affairs of Atlanta and RCE Greater Atlanta. So a little bit about the Goalmakers Initiative. This program is spearheaded by Global Washington, where Kristen Daly is the executive director. She was planning to be here today, but there was a conflict in her schedule. So I'll be filling in for her, giving you a little bit of an overview of what this initiative is about. So UNA Atlanta was chosen as a host organization for Goalmakers. There are a total of 7 US cities that are hosting the Goalmakers Initiative, which is modeled after the 17 rooms concept developed by Rockefeller Foundation and the Brookings Institution. And the purpose is to identify and collaborate on strategies to progress the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused some regression on the global goals, including SDG5, gender equality. Last week, Goalmakers Atlanta hosted a private roundtable discussion with global leaders on ending violence against women and girls, as well as gender-based violence. Results from the roundtable discussions from all the host cities, which with each focusing on a different global goal, will be presented during the National Forum, which is December 7th and December 8th. Today, we're hosting a public webinar to bring awareness on SDG5, gender equality, specifically on empowering girls so they can become future leaders. And now I would like to introduce you to Selene Bedov, Dr. Selene Bedov, UNA Atlanta's VP of Programs and Education.
Hi, friends of the UN and UNA Atlanta chapter. So I would like to start with a little bit small information about UNA Atlanta chapter. So UNA Atlanta's mission is to educate, inspire, and mobilize Americans to support the principles of vital work of the United Nations and its agencies. Programs and Education's Sustainable Development Goals Committee was created as a hub for our members to implement local projects, educating and advocating on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We bring awareness and action on the global goals to Atlanta community and surrounding areas. We have worked on the global goals related to poverty and hunger, quality education, gender equality, climate action, sustainable cities, and partnerships. And speaking of partnerships, I would like to thank to our partners, Mayor's Office of International Affairs and RC Greater Atlanta for their continued support in the work that we do. Just a little bit housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions and comments during the presentation, please type them in the chat box. Our president, Tiffany Irene, will be the Q&A moderator. And now I would like to give the word to our panel moderator, Robbin Jorgensen, to start the panel session. Yes, Robbin, stage is yours.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you had an amazing week. This is an incredible way to kick off the end of the week, talking about one of my most favorite topics on the planet, women and girls. So before we dive into the actual discussion, I want to provide an overview of SDG number 5, gender equality. Awesome. Thank you, Selene. So the goal of SDG 5 is to not only achieve gender equality, but empower all women and girls around the world. You know, women and girls, we represent half of the world's population, and therefore we also represent half of the world's potential. But today, gender inequality persists everywhere globally, and women continue to be underrepresented in all levels of the political landscape. And across the globe, women and girls have a disproportionate share of domestic work, and inequalities faced by girls can start at birth and they can follow them their entire lives. So we have seen some progress. We have seen a decrease in girl marriages. We've seen a decrease in female genital mutilation. More girls are in school than ever before. Women representation is the largest it's ever been, even though it's not where we want it to be. So we have seen some progress. And at the same time, we still have a lot of challenges, especially around COVID-19. This goal, we backtracked a little bit in the midst of COVID, and there's so many issues that are disproportionately against women and girls in the midst of COVID. There's a huge, steep increase in gender-based violence, as many women and girls are actually at home with their abuser. Closures of school and daycare centers, again, disproportionately falls on women to manage the children even more, try to homeschool them while they have a full-time job, etc. So the effects of this pandemic, they're really reversing the limited progress that we have made, and they're exacerbating all of the inequalities around the globe in every single sphere, from health to economy to security and social protection. So what do, right? We have to do something about this. We've got to get it back on track. One of the things that we can do is to empower girls to be global citizens. And I want to give you a couple of extraordinary examples that I came across. One is 16-year-old Kalila Williams, whose passion is promoting social justice in schools, or Princeton University freshman Serena Krishnan, who started a nonprofit providing ESL education, resume help, and job prep services for immigrants, or Melissa Kashabagan, who after visiting family in Inner Mongolia at the age of 13, decided to champion global literacy by starting a nonprofit that has provided English language curriculum to 400 teachers in 9 countries, benefiting 35,000 students. And those are just some of the thousands and tens of thousands of examples of incredible girls around the globe. So if the future generation of girls become global citizens, imagine what kind of world they can create, impacting all of the 17 global goals. And that's what we are here to explore this morning with 3 incredible speakers. And I'd love to start with Dr. Lakisha Jackson. With a PhD in educational leadership, LeKeisha is an experienced educational consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education industry and the P-20 education sector. She is the curriculum manager for academic affairs at the Morehouse School of Medicine, executive board member for the Association of Accredited Public Health Programs, and the president of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Kappa Omega Chapter. Dr. LeKeisha, welcome. Next, we have Janvier Kabogo. Janvier is the public health officer and a member of the Gender Equity Task Force at Agahozo-Shalom Youth Village in Rwanda. Agahozo-Shalom is a residential living and learning community built to transform and empower Rwanda's most vulnerable youth. He is a pharmacist and public health leader with a demonstrated expertise of working in the nonprofit organization management industry. Janvier, welcome. Then we have Morgan Wood. As the program associate at the UN Foundation, Morgan supports and implements Girl Up programs for over 4,000 clubs in 125 plus countries around the world to advance the movement for gender equality through digital organizing. She is a community organizer with proven experience in recruiting, training, and managing volunteer teams. Morgan, welcome. You can tell we're gonna have an amazing discussion, right? Just by the quality and caliber of these incredible speakers. So I cannot wait to get started. All right, so Nalan, if we could pull down this awesome so we can see each other. Again, welcome everyone. Dr. LeKeisha, I would love to start with you if I may. Why is it necessary to empower girls as global citizens? Why does this even matter?
Why is it important to empower girls to be global citizens? It's an important matter. I think it's always important to, one, empower the next generation. And why not women? Why not young girls? It's important to teach and train others to be globally minded so that they can expand their horizons and opportunities. Not only it's breaking the shackles of what they can do, but giving them the world as their oyster, setting the platform to reach higher heights and do greater things. A lot of the work and service that we do through Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and through the Kappa Omega chapter does just that. As the president of a chapter of over 400 women, we are multi-generational, and we come with a wealth of wisdom for all generations, and we utilize that strength and that skill set to empower students and young girls in our community. We have multiple programs that we like to institute to do just that. From our international perspective, our international president, Dr. Glenda Glover, has set an excellent platform through the excellent programs, which consist of 5 targets and community impact days. Kappa Omega's hit the ground running and utilizing those tools to make sure that our Atlanta community are impacted by these wonderful programs through programs such as the arts, which we are empowering students and girls and students all across the Atlanta area to about the Harlem Renaissance and the salute to the Black Power movement, through our CAP initiative, which is also in Target 1, which is helping high school students to demystify the college application process and enrollment, not only for HBCUs, but PWIs and international schools as well. So we have a host of speakers and workshops that really empower young girls from all levels, from elementary, middle, as well as high school, to broaden their horizon, demystify the process, and let them know that it is okay to think globally. It's better to think globally, to launch and create relationships that way. One of our smaller programs, not smaller, but newer initiatives is our virtual academy. We've had to shift in this atmosphere. So we've also created a program that's a virtual academy, AKA DEME, play on our words for our organization. But we have some of our leaders on today, Harriet Fairley, and I believe Kimberly Gordon as well, and Phyllis Bailey, who is joining the conversation because they're actively participating to help bridge that gap of what is needed for our community, while also placing the importance of global mindedness.
Love it, love it. So Alpha Kappa Alpha, it reminds me of that quote from Maya Angelou, where she says, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000."
Yes, yes.
So any of these incredible girls, they're filling out this application, they're intimidated. Do I even qualify? Am I good enough? Who am I? And they have this sisterhood globally of that 10,000 that's got their back and they're right there with them.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about as sisters, as women, and empowering each other and connecting us to other women who are of like mind and who are ready to empower and help others. That is our goal, and that should be the mission of all women.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. LeKeisha.
Thank you.
Janvier, I'm going to go to you next. Why do you feel it's necessary to empower girls as global citizens from your perspective in Rwanda?
Many thanks, Robin, for having me, and I'm very delighted to be the only male speaker on the panel. It's a privilege, and it's because I'm the advocate for female empowerment and girls empowerment in general. And this question is very essential, and I think the moment we deliberate about it gives us or inform our activities, our action in our respective organizations. And we'll talk this from a perspective as an African, but specifically as a Rwandan citizen. So in Rwanda, women constitutes about 51% of the Rwandan population. And a big number of them are housewives, just doing jobs like farming and serving as housekeepers. The inequality of the domestic responsibilities. And this is so much due to long-standing cultural history that has been promoting patriarchy and toxic masculinity, which culminated into the lives of GBV, low number of female in education, so many issues that affected girls and women in general. So we are very glad as a country after the 1994 genocide against Tutsi that the government made a commitment. They made a deliberate decision to promoting gender equality and address root causes of gender inequities in the Rwandan society, including starting from access to education to females. And we've seen such incredible outcome for the female education. But still, we're still having issues. We're still facing issues like GBV cases are rising now. We have high number of domestic violence. We have high number of sexual assaults. We have high numbers of rape. So there's still a long journey to do. So would you imagine how devastating or worrying it is if we don't empower this number of women? Imagine 51% of women. Imagine what kind of education they are giving to the future generations if they are not empowered. versus what sort of upbringing they might give if they are empowered now. So to me, empowering girls is an obligation rather than a wish. In my childhood, if I can share a bit of my personal story, I've been very lucky to have been raised by both parents, but I have spent considerably more time with my mother because she was a housewife and dedicated her full time to taking care of her kids. My mom had such a huge influence on me, and I credit her for a big percentage of behaviors and values that I've lived until now. So girls and women have or bring about positive influence on communities. And I have also noticed one thing. The moment the mamas would have money, you'd see that the idea is for better education, better nutrition in the family, and you would see that the family is happy. So women have such passion, empathy, and when they need to be empowered so that they can pass those traits to other generations. And then they tend to be pacific and they are very good at conflict management. And that is why we need to empower women. I also take an example of our founder, an amazing lady, Anne Heinemann, who founded the Agahozo-Shalom youth village because she was empowered and understood the kind of law women would play in a society. And due to her compassion and empathy, women tend to have they tend to have that natural ability to influence others in doing good. So she created a safe environment, not only for girls, but also for boys. So I think we have a mandate as boys, as young people, to actually start educating, empowering girls and boys, and demystify the gender biases that have been there for decades, especially in the Rwandan culture and the African culture. So this is the job of everyone. This is the responsibility of everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janvier. That's awesome. Morgan, same question for you. Why is it necessary? Why should we be empowering girls as global citizens?
That's such a great question, Robbin. Thank you so much for having me on this panel today. Right when you asked that question, it reminds me of a quote from First Lady Michelle Obama that this measure of any society is how it treats its girls and women. And I think that that's really essential. And when we think about answering this question with the work that I get to do with Girl Up, we really see that girls want to be in these conversations and they want to be in the room when they're making decisions and they want to be at the table. And I have the privilege of working with 4,000 clubs, as you mentioned, and in 125 countries. And when we're talking about why is it necessary, it's because these girls, they know it's their future. They know they want to be making these decisions right along with us and making sure that they can set up society just the way that they envision their futures, just as bright as they see it. And by empowering them more broadly, we're really opening that world of opportunity to them and helping them right alongside them better society. So that is why I think it's really essential to make sure that we empower girls to be global citizens.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Dr. LeKeisha, I'm going to come back to you. Morgan was talking about the feeling that these girls have, right? And the self-awareness to want to make a difference. What do you think the difference is between this particular generation of young women? If you look at Malala Yousafzai, she's a young woman now, but she started her activism when she was a teenager. If you look at Greta Thunberg, these young women are setting the world literally on fire with their passion, their gifts, their enthusiasm. What is the difference with this generation of young women that have that fire and that passion to truly ignite change in the world?
I think it's two things. I think one, piggybacking off the other panelists, I believe they have benefited from some of the seeds that have been planted for several years.
Love it.
I think they also have a platform that they can see, and it doesn't limit their view, their perspective. So not only were the women that they've seen in the past, they were obligated, as Janvier stated, to plant those seeds and to water and nurture those girls and to stand up themselves. And they've seen women do this, and they're picking up those torches and they're running with it. And they're being loud, they're being vocal, and they're not letting nothing stop them. So I applaud them. I'm motivated by them, but I think it's because they have been watered, or if not personally, but someone through the community through organizations such as ours, or even just visually through websites and through some of the internet, the news and things of that nature. But I think it's the empowerment seed. Someone has planted that seed in them, or they've heard that enough is enough, and I must stand and I must speak now. So I think it's a couple things through that, as well as the platform. It allows us to reach globally through the touches of what we're doing now, sitting on a virtual panel. It allows us to connect to others and just to connect with other people, possibly globally, who are going through the same thing. And then like minds fuel each other and say, let's do something, let's change. And then that fire is lit, you know, throughout the United States and internationally. So I believe those two things are that. One, they may have been nurtured, or if not directly, indirectly, from some of the women, a lot of the women of the past. I think we have several examples that have lit that fire and continue to pass that torch. And I think they see that and realize that they don't have to be boxed in. There's no limitations. You know, the scales have fallen from their eyes. They see the vision and they're ready to walk with it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're right. Yes, there's been seeds that have been planted, but the young women of today, they have the social media that we didn't necessarily have, where you can connect with young women globally and you can mobilize a movement like that.
Yes.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yes. And
So
piggybacking off of previous movements, they see how it was done, but again, that virtual platform was missing. You know, the TV helped to fuel a lot of our civil rights movements and our women's movement and newspaper articles and word of mouth. But exactly, virtually, it can start here and quickly move next to the next country. And it is a wave of change and advocacy.
Yeah, and there's a way for, like, if a young girl, if she has an idea, there's a way for her to get, you know, hundreds of other young women behind her and part of that movement instantly, versus having her feel like, I have this amazing idea to change the world, but I'm not alone. Because I can get all of these amazing young women across the world to help me.
Yes.
Yeah. Janvier, why do you think there's a need for organizations like Agahozo-Shalom?
Thanks again. Look, Robbin, women face enormous challenges in our communities, especially in rural areas. We've talked about gender-based violence. We've talked rape. We've talked sexual harassment. We've talked trauma, mental health problems. We've talked child labor, denied access to education. And we know that at Agahozo-Shalom, the girls that we receive are not immune. They are from those backgrounds. In fact, they are the hitters, they are the ones that are hit the hardest because of their family background. And in fact, a big number through assessment report some cases of past gender-based violence experience, sexual assault, or trauma, and so on. And that's why, as Agahozo-Shalom, we take care. There is a need to empower. There's a need to heal. There's a need to actually say, hey, come and join us on this healing journey and get empowered and go on and impact the communities. So we've been doing this, we've had pretty much some work that we've done in the past. So what do we do basically from the beginning, at the inception of or establishment of Agahozo-Shalom, we made a deliberate decision to bring 60% of females and 40% of males, because we believe that girls have been denied access to education for more decades now, and we seek to bridge that gap. And we go beyond that impressive statistics because we need to see the 6% of females across all aspects of life in the village. So we need to see that in academic performance. We need to see that in STEM, because some girls tend, because of cultural background, they tend to be afraid of joining science, technology, and mathematical options. But unfortunately, in the village, that's not usually the case. So it is an ongoing journey that we are undertaking, and we are still excited to continue doing that. Can you imagine that in the history of the village, in the past 13 years old, last year, the student voted for our first female president ever. So that is a progress. And the change is coming. We are observing the change coming about organically. And we are only watching the space as we keep on doing activities and initiatives that empower them, that supports them, that encourage them. So first thing that we do when they are alive in the village, we do what we call medical and psychosocial assessment. So it's an activity that we do every year to get the idea of the issues we are trying to address in the village. We do this to know the challenges and problems, whether being mental or physical health, that our kids, our girls and boys have encountered in the past. And then we start a healing journey with them by providing spaces and opportunities to rediscover themselves and process their emotions. And also we do make sure that we provide them with preferential medical care. So now the focus is given to those with underlying health conditions. Also, our girls get improved SLH services and can reach out for assistance in case they need or they encounter a challenge. The other good thing that we do, I think, is training them about life skills. So we do believe that the underlying gender inequities in our communities, in Rwandan communities and Rwandan culture and African culture, will be only addressed through capacity building and building resilience among girls. So we do have a comprehensive life skills curriculum that touches on the most compelling topics, such as SLH, such as coping with mental health issues, such as boosting one's self-esteem, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, building healthy relationship, empowering and telling our girls it's okay to say no, and also have a female-specific focus group so that they can have space to discuss their own issues, but also have male focus or male-specific workshops so that they can talk about how to demystify or to detoxify masculinity and patriarchy. So we do that, and also we do a mixed focus group to bring females and males together to have a conversation on the compelling gender issues. And also the other thing, I think this generation and why it is different from the other, from the old generation, is that this generation of female or girls or women, they are bold. They got tired of the abuse that is there. So they want to be there. They want to be on the high table to take decision. And I can't tell you how proud I am when I'm seeing Debola, who is the president of the student government, taking on decision, taking on initiative in the village. It's very good. And you see that the community is embracing it. And I hope that it continues like that. And also the other thing is positive cultural disruptions through promoting critical thinking. So we have a platform that we call Critical Thinking for Peace. In that platform, we empower our girls and boys to think critically about issues, about peace, about poverty, how to find solutions to challenges. And also we empower women clubs in the village. And after that, encouraging and support women in leadership. So the main idea, I think, is to also have leadership commitment at the staff level and at the students level. And we've been doing that through establishing Gender Equity Task Force, which I'm very proudly leading. And it's an ongoing journey. There are still some challenges, but we are happy with the progress we're seeing slowly. And it starts from this organization, influencing like-minded organization, and later on, influencing the whole country and the whole continent. Thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you so much, Janvier. I love everything that you said, but I want to highlight a couple of things. You know, when you talked about the holistic approach to really destigmatizing mental health, socioeconomic health, all of those things, I think the veil has been lifted and young women are becoming more comfortable having those conversations, raising their hand and saying, I need help. And when you do that in a community setting like Agahozo-Shalom, you automatically feel more empowered because your story is being shared and you get to see that you are not alone. There are so many other young people that have this similar experience, shared experiences. So I love that. So I know one of the clubs at Agahozo-Shalom is Lift Her Up, which was started by Peace Grace Muhizi, a dear, dear friend of mine, an amazing, extraordinary young woman. And I know one of the key components of that club is storytelling. So can you tell me why you think storytelling is such a huge value as a tool to empower girls as global citizens?
So look, I think it comes back to confidence, self-confidence and self-esteem. I think one of the things that girls have been lacking is confidence, especially in our culture, because they are used to be in the background. When parents and kids are having conversation, sometimes they tend to tell boys to speak up, but you would barely see encouraging in families, encouraging girls to speak. So the storytelling part is very key because first of all, it helps in emotion processing. You know, you are just flashing out the emotions. Number two, it boosts the confidence. And also through that process, you boost the public speaking ability and skills. And that's what we need for girls. We need girls who are able to speak out about the issues. The girls that we go on and lead initiatives and communities that are there to support other young girls and other people in general. So the storytelling part is a process that helps them to gain confidence, but also help them to say, hey, we've been having this. We know that our history as women and girls have not good. So what can we do about it? And learning from each other and get strength and resilience in the process. I think that's key, and that's very good that we're doing it in the village.
I love that, thank you. So Morgan, Girl Up just turned 10. You've had a decade of empowering young women around the world. Why is it important that Girl Up exists? And give us a little bit more about these clubs and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Girl Up gives resources and a platform to start a movement wherever our girls are, and our members are as well. And our members are creating the change that they want to see in the world, starting right in their local communities. And Girl Up leaders have influenced policy around the world, petitioning decision makers, working with local and national organizations, even hosting their own advocacy boot camps. Together, our network of leaders is a force of global change. We're talking 4,000 clubs, and they are meeting weekly, sometimes daily, especially in these times, and really supporting each other to organize, advocate, and fundraise for gender equality, and right from everywhere in their local community to internationally and globally, like we've been discussing. And like you said, since 2010, Grow Up leaders have actually helped to raise $10 million for the United Nations programs that we support. So that includes supporting education and safety for girls globally. And they've also taken action to advance national policy. And so Girl Up is really an important platform to help build a meaningful movement for gender equality. Like our other panelists have discussed, so much of a barrier for young activists is sometimes when you're looking around your community, you might feel like you might have only these unique views. But as we are able to lean into storytelling and to lean into organizing, we start to realize that we all share the thirst for gender equality and making sure that we can support one another. And so, in my opinion, Girl Up is such an essential organization to connect these leaders, to show them that they are not alone, and that together we can amplify their stories and that we can make a difference for gender equality.
Can you give us some specific examples of activities that the clubs do that can be extrapolated with all of our listeners today, that they can take back to community groups that they're involved in or young women in their own family to help empower them?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of our more recent examples is our leaders are organizing drives for PPE, or they're hand making masks, they're showing up for essential workers, or they are also organizing advocacy boot camps to really look at where we are currently from the advocacy standpoint to make sure that we don't slide backwards for SDG5, and that they are hosting these boot camps on the weekends, and they are getting together and saying and identifying who are our local leaders and who are our national leaders and who are our global change makers, that we can make sure that we're sharing our stories and our experiences in our community. And in addition, these are also youth clubs. So not only are they really striving to make global change, they're also supporting one another. So they're helping each other and organizing homework clubs, and they're making sure that they're getting their work done, or creating networks to support essential workers and tutoring their children to lift that burden off of women who are in the workforce. So it's really a whole range of activities that we're seeing from these young leaders, everything from climate change storytelling and advocacy. They're really putting it all under their belt and leaning in.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan. Dr. LeKeisha, I'd love to come back to you if I may. Alpha Kappa Alpha has such an amazing, rich history as an organization and a powerhouse organization. The beneficiaries of everything that you do, these incredible young women, how do you see them impacting the communities in the future?
That, excuse me, that statement in itself is always in the back of our mind when we're planning programs. We want to make sure that we continue to plant those seeds so that we empower the next generation. So that our, like you said, our organization is over a century old, and it was founded upon the mission of encouraging scholastic and ethical standards to promote unity and friendship among college women. And we want to study and alleviate problems concerning girls and women to improve their social stature. So there's a lot of things that we continue to do, programs and initiatives to continue to empower, to continue to plant the seed and be role models for the next generation. Not only is it to educate, inform, and empower, but to lead by example as well. What greater example as a member of ours is Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and her wonderful achievements. So that is leading by example, that is setting the standard, and then again, leading and setting that example for the future generations. So we continue to lead with that end in mind of how are we impacting the community? How are we planting seeds for the next generation? How can we empower them nationally and internationally? Because it is a large world and it's getting smaller and smaller every day, and we want to make sure that we're training them and educating them and empowering them in all aspects. Our chapter has over 400 members, and we have various professions from public health to medical to social work. So it's important that we tap into the skill sets of all members who are available and to make those resources and that education available to them in all platforms.
I love it. Can you give me an example of, either a specific young woman or a group of young women from maybe the high school that you've gone and created these amazing programs? What were they when they started? Were they timid? Were they shy? Like, give me a sense of the before and the after of the impact of these incredible programs that you're doing.
The main program that comes to mind is the Window Seat to the World program, in which we partnered with the UNA Atlanta chapter. We had a select group of students that we took on a tour to New York. We had several experiences, and they started out very timid in the beginning of the process. And those who are online are smiling and shaking their heads because they know. They started out very timid. They started out very shy. But as we continue to work with them, give them workshops and give them education and mentor and touch them in a way that that was of importance and of substance, it allowed them to open up and grow from that and be empowered. And we saw a complete shift from the beginning to the end, where we had several students who may not have wanted to talk or ask any questions. When we had a conversation at the Ford Center or International Headquarters in New York, they were then ready. They were educated, they did their research and were ready to ask questions and to seek and understand how they can better themselves and to better the community based on that experience. So the Window Seat to the World was a great opportunity that we were able to partner with, and we could see the growth holistically, mentally, how they dressed. They saw what we were wearing. They were given a dress code, and they started from one way and ended a totally different way. So the transformation was outstanding. And that fuels us, and it was confirmation to us that we are doing what we should be doing, and we want to continue doing that. through our CAP program, as well as we have high school students where we educate them through the college application process. And it's the same way. They may start out because they've heard all of these things in their ears or seen some things that may want them to clam up. But through our education, through our mentoring, it empowers them to open up. It empowers them to do more, to learn more, be more, and do more. Really that transformational leadership type of approach that waters those seeds that are there. It's just about cultivating them in the right way. So through our CAP program, through other chapter programs, and definitely through our Window Seat to the World program, we offer different programs so that students can find their lane, where they can grow and be empowered based on their interests or lack of knowing that that is their interest. So that's a great piece as well, where they come in and not know that, oh, I really enjoyed this. Because we had two young men on there. I know we're talking about empowering the women. We had two young men on the trip as well. And they were so transformed by the process of it, just the cultural exploration through some of the things that we did by attending a play. It transformed them, and they will never be the same, just from a male perspective as well. So it's important to have those programs, those platforms, and partnerships. Thank you for allowing me to be on the panel with these other two wonderful organizations. And I'm just thinking in my mind how I can connect with them and how we can continue to branch and do wonderful things and continue to be transformational leaders and empower our young girls for success.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. LeKeisha. One of the things that I think could be, many, but when you were talking about all of the way that you were pouring into these young women and a couple of amazing young men, but the way that you pour into them and they're sitting taller and they're dressing nicer and that confidence just builds and builds, that's now locked in. Like yes. That is now who they are. Yes. And they're now approaching the world and their families, their communities, their schools, their passions with that newfound confidence, right? Yes. And that just builds and builds and builds and builds. So that sounds like an extraordinary program. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Janvier, let me go back to Agahozo-Shalom for a moment. So when you look at the young women who are coming up through Agahozo-Shalom now, how do you see them benefiting the community, the villages, the provinces, and the country moving forward?
Again, thanks, Robbin. And let me, before going to that question, let me just talk about the partnerships that Doctor was talking about. I think that we need to form a framework of organization that work on women empowerment and girls and learn from each other and support each other, because this work is very challenging and we need to join efforts and forces to actually do that. I'm glad you mentioned about the partnerships of this amazing organization that are on the panel and also beyond. So we need to look for those organizations that are doing an amazing job and learn from them and together make a force to actually take these kids or those girls to the next level. And thank you so much for mentioning that. Now on to your question on how our planning or how our alumni do impact their communities, especially in this pandemic. I think, there is so much impact that this pandemic has had on people, but especially on girls, on women. Let's talk about students. So many students have got pregnant in this pandemic, in the lockdown and everything. Gender-based violence has increased. So they need support. And then what we do in our institution, so we do promote the value of learning community. So we believe that in the process, they learn in the village, they are empowered, they are healed, they build the resilience. And we also encourage them to pay it forward by, for example, being mentors of other young girls, coming back to give back to communities. And some of our girls come back as volunteers to be the mentors of other young girls. Some of them be the mentors of the women empowerment clubs. So we do promote this culture of paying it forward, and it's working. But also, our alumni, upon completion of the education in the village, go on to become leaders and advocate for gender equity in their communities. And we continue to support them in those efforts. So we believe that they use resilience, skills, and knowledge attained in the village to live meaningful lives in whatever paths they opt to go to. And by doing so, they impact positively the lives of others in their communities of origin. I can commend one of our alumni who is involved with Girl Up Global, and she's doing an amazing job. She's representing fellow Rwandans to do a very good job at Girl Up. So, and others have become entrepreneurs, media personalities, and I think that is the movement that we need. We need those girls who are powerful, who are bold enough to say no. No to violence, no to rape, no to sexual assault, no to patriarchy, no to toxic masculinity. So it needs a courage. It needs courageous and empowered girls to do so. And we need girls who not only complain about the problem, but also seek solutions to those challenges. And also, we know that there are some girls who will be left behind and left out, but those girls, those powerful girls will pull up those others and actually empower them. So, and then it becomes peer mentorship, peer education. And by the way, one of the programs that we have, Critical Thinking for Peace, the graduates of those programs go on to become the mentors, and they come back to facilitate discussions. Now, seeing young kids, young girls who are facilitating a conversation, for example, on conflict management. And that is what we need to see. That is what we want to see for girls. So we're doing so, we are putting together an alumni strategy as a village, as an institution, to continue supporting these efforts of our graduates, and also track the progress, track their work where they are, and see whether we can support or how we can support them, how best we can continue to empower them, because the empowerment process is ongoing. I mean, learning is endless. So yeah, to me, that's the response to that question. Thank you so much again, Robbin.
I love it. Thank you so much, Janvier. So Morgan, Girl Up is 10 years old. What are some new programs, new ideas? What's in the parking lot for empowering young girls over the next decade?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And I think so much of that too comes from our girls. All of our programming, what we like to say and what is really true to us is that our programs are by girls and for girls. So I saw some questions in the chat about what about sport? That's a newer program for us as well, supporting our leaders when they come to us and they tell us that, you know, we're seeing gender inequality in sport as well. And we want tools and we want support and making sure that we can advocate for ourselves in that realm. So for the next 10 years, I really think our girls will be leading us down that path. Currently, one of our launch will be coming up on Monday of our GBV curriculum, and really making sure that our leaders aren't, in addition to organizing, they also have educational resources to have these hard conversations where it's hardest to be a girl and it's hardest to talk to family about facing gender-based violence. But I really do think that in the next 10 years, we're going to be so much better off because our leaders are really setting us down a path of making sure that they are supported and that they are speaking up and they're included in all of our programming.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Dr. LeKeisha, if you had to think of the top 3 things that you personally have learned from these extraordinary young women that you get to interact with every single day, what would those be?
Oh, top 3. I almost said 10. 3. No, it's fine. That is hard to narrow. Top 3 things that I've personally learned is authenticity. We often tell students to be authentic and be themselves, but I believe that through life, you know, you're cultivated and sculpted many different ways by experiences and things of that nature. And we're always trying to make sure we're staying true to ourselves and authentic. And you can learn a lot from young women that they've learned to be authentically themselves after empowering, some already from the beginning already being authentic. But I think those who hadn't been sculpted by adult experiences and interactions and other things that causes us to change our own self. I think all this authenticity is definitely one thing that I've learned, to be authentically yourself and reminded to be authentically yourself, to be honest, to be honest. Many people have an issue with being honest because you want to be PC or you want to say the right things, even though you want to say the right things, but it's true to be authentically yourself and be honest in a conversation with others so that you can continue that feeds to being yourself. When you start sculpting your language just to be PC, you're sometimes cutting off your own self. So I've learned to be authentic, to continue to be authentic, and to be honest, and also to be strong. These young women come from various backgrounds and various circumstances, various socioeconomic status, various different factors that play and can be very heavy on them. But they have taught me to continually be authentic, to be honest, and to continue just to be yourself and to be strong no matter what. So even seeing the young ladies grow from different experiences, they may have started off timid, but they still have a strong resilience about them because you think about their background and what they may have been through and what they've come and succeeded through, what circumstances they succeeded from. So that definitely is one of the things that I've learned, is to be strong. When you feel that you're weak, you always connect with others who continue to pour into you to rejuvenize that strength. So strength, authenticity, and honesty are three main things that I've learned from working with the various group of young women.
I love it. Thank you. Janvier, same question to you. What are the top couple of things that you have learned from working with the amazing young women at Agahozo-Shalom?
I think, thank you so much for that. I think one of the things that I really learned in this process of working with young women is to be able to learn and unlearn some of the things. In the process, you will be challenged because you are some years older than these young women. And sometimes you need to sit down and listen. So having also listening abilities, listening skills, to be able to hear their worries, to be able to hear their stories, and actually do something about those stories. And the other thing is respect. So respecting that it's a no. If you are told no, it's a no. It's not a yes. It's not a by the way. It's not anything. It's just no. So respect. And also the other thing is that this journey is as challenging as interesting to undertake. You know, we face a lot of challenges because these gender inequities have been there for so many years. And we need to take this journey one step at a time. But we also need to accelerate. We also need to move very faster. So yeah, those are the few things that I learned in the process. And I'm still learning, you know, because one of the values in the village is learning community. So we are a community that keeps on learning. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much. Morgan, same question. You get to work with these extraordinary young women in 125 different countries around the globe. So what are some of the things that you've taken away and learned for yourself that have empowered you from them?
Definitely. It's a really great question and very similar to the other panelists. In addition to those points, I think patience as well. I see our leaders coming up against really big challenges in their communities in the grassroots level. And every time we're having conversations with them, they're always so patient and they are ready to work together with their community. I think that's one of the biggest things I've taken away. I think sometimes we get caught up in, making sure we're expediting or that we're moving as quickly as possible. And these leaders are dedicated to really sustainable change. They don't want this to be something that generations after them also have to face. One of our club leaders in a conversation a few months ago with me mentioned that one of the biggest things that she wants is that her voice to be heard now, so generations after her don't have to have that echoed. They don't have to still, carry that same conversation. It can be progress. So I think patience is really that main one that comes to mind for me.
I love it. I love it. Dr. LeKeisha, Janvier, Morgan, thank you, thank you, thank you for your amazing insight, your wisdom, your heart, your passion, what you do in the world to empower young girls as global citizens. Thank you so much. Tiffany, I'm now going to turn it over to you for a little bit of Q&A.
Okay. Yes, this was great. Really amazing. I'm empowered. I'm ready to go out here and do some work. So thank you all so much. Does anyone have any questions? Let's check the Q&A box here. Let's see. I don't see anything in the Q&A, but I'm going to go back through the chat box and see. I know Morgan answered the sports question. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any questions here. Don't be shy, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free. Or if you have any questions as you go throughout your day and you want to talk to the panelists later, you can email us at info@una-atl.org. And that is also in the chat box as well. If you have questions later on, or if you want this presentation, if you want a copy of this presentation, you can also email us because it is being recorded. So if it's okay, Nalad, if you want me to transition over to the next portion, do some call to actions, or if you have anything you would like to say before we get into that part. Oh, hold on. Oh, here's 2 more questions. Oh, let's see. Okay. All right. Tamisha Burgess, what have these organizations implemented regarding mental health? I know Janvier touched on that part. And I'm so grateful for him bringing that up because that is very important in the discussion of empowering girls. Janvier, would you like to kind of kick off that, answering that question? Again, it says, what have these organizations implemented regarding mental health?
Oh, can you repeat the question, please?
What have these organizations such as yours, and I think you kind of touched on yours a little bit when you were talking about Lift Her Up and other programming. I don't know if you want to be more specific or tell people how to get to that program, or maybe leave the email, the link to your organization. But the question was, what have these organizations implemented regarding mental health? Like, do you have any specialized mental health programs for girls?
Very, very good. Well, because of the background of the student that will receive in the village, specifically girls, these particular girls have had enormous trauma in the past because some of them have lived in extreme poverty. Some of them are the leaders that are heading their families. They are taking care of their siblings. Some of them have endured gender-based violence or domestic violence. Some of them have had or have experienced child labor. So we keep in mind that those issues exist and our kids come along with those packed issues in their own mind, in their own body. And then what we do is that we assign each grade a psychosocial worker, a counselor who is responsible for helping about 128 kids through therapy sessions, through focus groups, and through health literacy about mental health, and also promoting individual care. Then what we also do is we do the assessment, we do the psychosocial assessment to first know where to start from. And by the way, when our kids come for the first time in the village, they have to pass 1 year to actually have 1 year for healing and also catching up with other courses and other skills and knowledge, especially English, mathematics, and other things. Then that specific year is for healing, focusing on the mental well-being of the kids, focusing on the physical well-being of the kids. Then, and in that specific year, that's when we focus on healing, on building capacities of these young kids and young girls in general. And we do that also through life skills. And our psychosocial worker do an amazing job by doing individual evaluation to track the progress, the healing progress of each and every individual in the village, every kid in the village. So it's an ongoing process. And we hope that in the time of 4 years, they will have had enough resilience, they will have healed, and also they can have strength to help others when they graduate from the village. So that's what I can say about our mental health programming.
Wow, wow, that's really impactful, because oftentimes there may be programs or events that for girls, that they may attend, and then that's that. But to know that it's a process, and you actually have a social worker that comes in and walks through this process with the girls, that's very something. That's thank you, Janvier. Thank you, very empowering. Does anyone else want to answer that question? Just saying, how do you implement or incorporate mental health in your programs for girls?
I can.
Okay.
We typically like to take a holistic approach. So for any program we have, we keep that in the back of our mind, because we know mental health affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. So when we have students that come into these particular programs, we also make sure that we utilize the strength and the skill set of our membership, so that we have workshops kind of that deal with the aspect of emotional, psychosocial, psychological, and social well-being aspects. So that's woven into the curriculum per se. So taking a holistic approach and really looking at that aspect. We have several people in the chapter, again, that are trained professionals in this area. So we try to utilize them to give across that type of information, and keeping in contact with the students. Our international president has done a great job. Every 4 years we have a new president, but overall, typically there's some type of mental health or public health aspect in our programs consistently. For example, we target 2 is dealing with women's health and wellness, and we have a particular aspect in there where we have a care for the caregivers. So we want to make sure we support those who are caregivers in the community as well as in our chapter. So we take some of those same elements and apply it to different programs like our CAP for our high school students and for our other programs. So many of our, again, members are educators as well. So they're trained, high level area to look for these type of things. So it's always a holistic kind of approach. So if we saw anything that we needed to address, or if there was a concern, we would have resources available.
Okay. Oh, wow. The chat box, the Q&A is, it's live. So Nala or Celine, please keep me on time check, because we have about 9 more questions. I don't know if I can get to all of them, but let's see here. The next question. So this one is it's a little paragraph, so I'm going to try to summarize it just a little bit. But Janvier had brought up an interesting point. Okay, would it be panelists? Will the panelists be able to share their insights, experiences of reaching girls and young women from the often marginalized and overlooked groups, particularly in global debates? Okay, in regards to climate change, CBD. This is from Mrs. Sangini. She says her area of work is mainly in sustainable development, and a key issue of concern is there are groups of young women whose perspectives are not represented by them. Any lessons, examples on how they can represent themselves and their peers? And I know that was a mouthful, but let's see. Anyone want to take that one, or need me to clarify a little bit more?
I can speak from our perspective.
Okay.
Marginalized groups, that can be defined a lot of different ways. So it just depends on what your marginalized group. And I wanted to lead because oftentimes we could consider women of color or minorities as a group that needs special attention. As it pertains to global mindset and what were some other areas, global debates, a lot of our programs internationally are developed based on analysis and data. So we do focus groups, and the leadership really looks at the overall areas of deficiency and how we can help these particular groups and what areas are most important right now during this time frame. So some years ago, we did have a specific, actually not years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, the previous administration had a specific program that dealt specifically with global and global mindset. And again, we see it in our current administration as well. So if the particular international programs does not cover it, we also take a good analysis at our Atlanta ground root level and say, okay, what are some areas? We bring in focus groups, we talk to the community. What are some areas that are in need? How can we help the community? How can we be beneficial? How can we be transformative? So those are some areas that we partner with other organizations to empower, to educate and inform based on global matters. How can we encourage them to be more, I think they were saying more vocal or something to that effect, is again, maybe educating them, empowering them and giving them a platform. So it's important to, if you don't have anyone in your particular area that could speak about it, to reach out to other organizations that have resources that are available to serve as speakers or panelists or even mentors to these young women. So I think if you didn't have the particular skill set around you and you want to empower these women, it's important to come to panels like this so that you can find resources that you can connect with. I know that we have a plethora of resources within my chapter, and we are always open to partnering with other organizations to reach different communities and continue empowering girls globally, nationally and internationally. So some of the things that work well for us is, again, just partnerships, choosing particular groups that really analyzing and gathering data from our community so we can make sure it's beneficial and it's intentional what we're doing. And partnering, again, I said partnership, but I can't stress that enough, to make sure you have the resources to give to these young women and or men. I hope that answered some of your question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. Thank you. A question that came in I thought was pretty good from our VP of Programs, Celine Bennett. Do you think your work is aligned with or in the same pace with the government institutions? And I know from UNA Atlanta's perspective, we have a partnership with the City of Atlanta, which is a government agency. And that's how we try to ensure that we align our mission and values with government agencies to ensure that they know that we're here, that we're present, and that they don't overlook what we do. That it's very important, especially with our elected officials, that they advocate or understand the importance of the UN and the involvement. So for Morgan, Janvier, Dr. Jackson, how do you ensure that your organization aligns with government institutions, or does it?
All right, thank you so much. Again, I come back on the point of partnerships. So we do partner with the government, and in fact, the education system that we use is Rwandan-based education system that is supported by Rwanda Education Board, for example. And then we do also consult governments on specific issues or activities or initiatives that we're doing. So at some concept or for some activities, we might be ahead of the game because, for example, the government is working towards gender equality, but for us, we are working towards gender equity. And we do not want 50-50 because we know the needs are different. So for us, what we need to do is to actually attend to everyone's needs, because the needs are different, the solutions and the package should be different. So for some instances or some examples, initiatives, we are definitely aligned with the government, but also we also have that mandate to actually go extra mile and do other activities that we feel are important to our communities.
And jumping in here too, so we don't necessarily as an organization align with any one government, but what we do with our girls and with them leading the charge is making sure that what they're advocating for is connecting to their government and to their officials. So really making sure that they're bringing the SDGs is really our core focus, and really the way that we are charting our path is connecting with the UN and aligning with the UN more broadly, and then carrying out the UN's mission, and then taking that to the local agencies and local governments to help support the mission of the SDGs, and especially SDG5.
Okay, thank you so much, Morgan. Oh, Dr. Jackson, did you want to say something? Okay. All right. Oh, just a quick message from Ms. Chandra Daniel. Greetings, excellent interview with the experts on the panel. Thank you, Robbin. I am currently a Global Goals Ambassador for SDG 17 from UNA USA. She's looking forward to connecting with all the panelists. Okay, just wanted to shout her out. The next question, holistic care was mentioned. All right, are there dual applications to combat anxiety and depression in women and girls? A dual approach, unorthodox or traditional approaches? Do you all incorporate any of those topics, anxiety and depression?
Can I take that one?
Absolutely.
Well, very good. I think what we need as women empowerment advocate is strong women with mental well-being. So in the life skills curriculum or in the life skills teaching that we do focus, there's a very big component of mental health, how to cope with anxiety, how to cope with depression, and other mental health issues such as PTSD. But also we go beyond that and actually put together tools, the assessment, to be able to identify those problems, those mental health problems in our girls community and in our boys community. And then we start working on those kids. So we have the patients that are suffering from those kind of mental health problems. And for the things that we're not able to handle internally, we do have partnership with other institutions outside the village who are otherwise able to actually provide better healthcare in terms of mental health. And we work with different psychologists in different clinics or hospitals to support our own counselors or psychosocial workers. So the main goal is to identify and knowing the issues that our girls are facing. So creating space for them to open up about the issues they're facing, and also be able to identify those issues at early stages. And when they are identified, then holistically, we start working on them. So we have cases of progress and improvements with the patients that were suffering from different mental health problems. But we also do have active cases of mental health problems, and we are still working on them. Yeah, it's still, again, it's a life that has to go on, and it's a process that keeps on going. So for us, what we do is to learn best practices and try to incorporate them in our work with regards to mental health care. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Janvier. But while you're there, a question came up for you in the comments. Janvier, how do you balance global human rights standards with the need for indigenization and adapting interventions to meet your specific community?
Again, that is a very powerful question. And what I can say here is that we are open-minded. Of course, we are a learning community. We do learn from different people from different communities across the globe. But we also know that we are raising Rwandans, future Rwandans, not future Americans or future Europeans. So, and that's why our parental wholeness is led by the mamas, Rwandan mamas who have experience in providing education and parenting experiences to the kids. And that we also combine it with the knowledge, the global knowledge, because they also need that. They also need to be decent. They need to respect others' cultures. They need to understand that, hey, you need to respect others. Hey, those are the things that they're learning. Learn about them, see what you can use, implement it locally, and if they help you achieve your goals, well and good. So we do have that balance because of the parental wholeness department that we have, specifically run by the mamas, Rwandan citizens. So I think I try to respond to that question. Thanks.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's a deep question. Thank you, Janvier. Something different. Thoughts on how to teach leadership to girls at the high school level? Does anyone have a thought process on that? How to educate girls on leadership at the high school level?
Yeah, I'll jump in. One of our favorite things to say is that leadership is a verb, not just a noun. And so making sure that our leaders are not just told how to be a leader, that they're able to experience, have those experiences that help to build that foundation. Any girl or any youth can be a leader. It's really about building those experiences. And Dr. Jackson, I think that the trip that you spoke about, I think it was Windows to the World, or I might be messing up the title, but that is such an incredible program. And I think that it's really about connecting with youth and meeting them where they're currently at and giving them experiences to help build that foundation. In addition to that, it's really creating the connection among them, making sure that they know that it's not just them on their own, especially in high school. I think we are all in our own bubble, especially in high school. And you think that, we hear a lot from youth that they think that, I must be the only one who's experiencing this anxiety or this type of nervousness. And so opening that conversation really kind of opens the floodgates for them and starts to open their worldview of what is possible and what the potential is. And so it's really about building community for them and supporting them, and also exposing them to experiences and new ideas that they may not have already been exposed to.
I agree. I agree. Some other areas or aspects that we do to promote leadership among high school students is intentionality. I think it's important to whatever group you're dealing with or working with to know those students, either through focus group, conversation, survey, whatever is necessary. Sometimes it's just those informal conversations where you can learn more to see where they are and to where they want to grow and what they want to become. And you, as an experienced leader or whatever your particular area is, you really chart a course of what activities you can do to develop that. So if a student wanted to learn more about how to be a better public speaker, that's definitely a workshop we craft, because we know some students don't like to get in front of groups and talk. And sometimes as leaders, we don't like to get in front of groups and talk, but you have to put yourself in situations so that you can learn and grow. So I think intentionality is very important to be able to speak with those students that you're working with informally or formally, however you would like to do it, but to know what needs they have. Because the worst thing you could have is to create a full curriculum and it doesn't touch them the way you want it, and it's not as meaningful. We've all been in certain classes or been to certain things and they just pick a topic of 5 different things and you're like, been there, done that, great presentation, but it didn't help me grow. So I think it's important to make sure you know the population you're working with, and then you develop your workshops according to that. So if sometimes it requires a high level of emotional intelligence, or you can see the students, you just put them in an atmosphere, have a social, and you can see what students are over here, what students are social, how they're interacting. And as the leader or those who are developing the curriculum, you can say, yeah, let me help bring this one over to the fold and, bring them to the group. And then you kind of just talk to them and you plan your workshops accordingly. Some basic workshops that we do, of course, is public speaking, or putting them in an atmosphere where they have to present or talk to others, interviewing, writing skills. It just depends on what the needs are. And that could vary based on group. It could vary based on location. And it could vary based on what resources they already have afforded to them via their school or church or other organizations they may be a part of. So start with surveying them first, get to know them, and then you pick your path of how to develop the workshops that will be both intentional and beneficial to them.
Thank you so much. Your surveying is a great.
Yes, I can also.
Mhm. Go ahead, Janvier.
I can also weigh in for that, but before I just want to shout out to Phyllis Lena for being an extraordinarily meant and support of our gender equity initiative. I know she's attending this webinar and she's been contributing on comments. So thank you so much, Phyllis. Then on leadership, we do have programs or programming that promotes leadership. And for example, the debate. So we do have female debate competition to enable them be confident and be outspoken and employ their public speaking as one of the traits of a good leaders. We do also hold conversations and workshops and training around leadership. But again, I think by the moment we learn model leadership, we say we reflect leadership in our policies, in our leaders, in the village. Is when kids will be moved, kids will be inspired. And by the way, last year we also got the first female village director, and I think this is a message we're giving to the girls. Hey, you can also be the village director. You can be the director of human resources. You can be the president of student government. So I think the role modeling and making sure that the equity that we're seeing in numbers of the female girl or the girls that we have is reflected everywhere at all levels in the village. So that's what we're striving for. And having the village director, female village director has been really a very good implication that we are walking the talk. So yeah, I can combine the role modeling and the capacity building in that way. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you so much, Janvier. And just thank you to all the panelists, Dr. Jackson, Janvier, Morgan. You have provided a wealth of resources to all of us today, and we appreciate you and value you taking your time to speak on this with us today. And thank you for all the attendees too who are here today. And I hope that you walk away with something. I'm sure you did. The chat box is going back and forth. So the dialogue lets me know that this is something we have to do again. You know, this is a topic that needs to be discussed over and over again. And so we'll move into just some call to action so that you can know what you can do to be a part of our movement. And if you're wondering, how can I get involved? How can I do something? How can I make a difference? Well, become a member. Become a member of our organization, United Nations Association of the USA Atlanta chapter. There's chapters all over the country and some internationally as well. And it's a, look at the fee. That fee is very nominal, like $25. You can do that. And if you're under 26, it's free. It's free. So I urge you all to become a member of our community. And let's go to the next call to action. And this one here is one we were just speaking about earlier, the window seat to the world. And I'll talk about the 100 Kids, 100 Lives as well. But the window seat to the world, if COVID hadn't happened right now, our goal is to have this, well, biannually now. We take high school students and make them global citizens, take them to the UN who've never had that experience before. And so, like Dr. Jackson said earlier, it's a life-changing experience, and we partner with the Kappa Omega chapter on this initiative right here. So if you're interested, you can email us. If you want to make a donation, you can scan your phone for the PayPal link. And then the 100 Kids, 100 Lives challenge is, we are, as parents, are challenged right now due to COVID-19, and schools are virtual and children don't have that ability to be hands-on anymore. We partnered with Twin, a science company who creates STEM kits. And so we had our first phase. We were able to raise some funding to deliver STEM kits to students in Clarkston community. And so we're on our second phase of that. And if you are passionate about STEM, if you're passionate about helping children get that hands-on learning, even during COVID, you can scan your phone, you pick up your phone and just go like this, and then it'll scan that QR code to make a donation. All right, and then the next one here. Tell your members of Congress to support the U.S. full funding of the United Nations. That is what we advocate for. That is the mission behind our organization. You pick up your phone, simply text USA for UN to 30644, and it will shoot to your congressman, and you'll see all these wonderful text messages. Technology is amazing. It takes one, I was getting ready to say 1 second, but 3 seconds to do this, 5. So please, I urge you all to do it right now. Pull out your phones and help support our mission. And I think that was my last call to action. No. 16 days of activism. We're going to put that into the chat box. Next week starts 16 days of activism. Do something for your community. Get active. Follow the link, and you'll be able to see various ways you can be activated next week as we celebrate 16 days of activism. And I think that was the last one, I believe. All right, Nalada, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so thank you everyone for spending your morning with us on this heavy topic that we're discussing. But I feel hopeful, and one thing I'd like to add is that I think one of the attendees added was, how do you get young girls' voices into conversations, especially high-level conversations that deals with policy making? That is definitely a challenge that we are tackling. I think a lot of organizations are tackling. So as you can see from the attendees and the panelists, we're all NGOs here. We have some government agencies here too, like the International Office, Atlanta Mayor's International Office, so thank you for being here. But we also need partnerships with private businesses, corporations, all levels of society. And I think that is a real challenge right now for those working in social equity and social issues. And that's something that we strive to work on over the next 10 years, because 2030 is the new set of goals. So that is just something to keep in mind. If you represent an organization, whether it be private, big, or small, and you see avenues for us to collaborate either with UNA Atlanta or with Global Washington or with AKA or Janvier or Girls Up or UN Foundation, please reach out to us. You can email me, Tiffany, and Solen through info@unaatl.org. Just say, I'm interested in partnering. Can I have this person's contact information? And we'll get you connected. So just a reminder, speaking of connections, this is a great way to connect to. It's a national forum. So this is national. It is reporting from the 7 US cities that has high-level roundtable discussions on specific global goals like gender equality, hunger, climate action, poverty, education. And so this is a great way to connect with other people across the United States who are working towards the same goal, which is building justice, a just, sustainable community during and after COVID. If you are interested in attending, please email us, because we do have some discounted tickets available. So, but do it as soon as possible, and then I will send you the code, and then you get to spend 2 days with like-minded citizens and just learning and connecting and see what comes from it. So thank you again for being here, and I wish you all a wonderful and safe rest of the year. And hopefully next year we can actually have in-person meetings where we can have more lively conversations and just talk more and brainstorm more, because this is a work that's going to take years of doing, and we need each other to motivate each other to keep on fighting and to keep on going. So thank you again, everyone, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Good weekend, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Janvier,
Thank you so much for